the Why Watch That interview.
Hey everybody, we've got a special treat for you. The critic and I got a chance to see In a Valley of Violence, and it's coming to a theater or a TV set near you this Friday, October 21st. Yes, it's being released in theaters and on demand. Now this is written, directed, edited, and produced by Ty West, who is on our show today. It stars Ethan Hawke, yes, John Travolta, Karen Gillan, Taissa Farmiga, Vera's baby sister, Vern Gorman, Toby Huss, and our other special guest, James Ransone. Welcome to Why Watch That, guys.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so Ty, In a Valley of Violence is a unique take on the Western genre. I mean, you'll find there's violence, revenge, drama, suspense, and humor. And at some points, what felt like improv, which we don't always see in conventional Westerns. So tell us first how you came up with the story and how you decided to put your twist on the classic Western film.
Well, I wanted to make a very traditionally cinematic film, and to me, the Western is the quintessential American traditional cinema genre. So I wanted to see if I could sort of, also as a filmmaker, it's just sort of a dream to make a Western, at least for me anyway. But I also wanted to make a movie that set up these archetypes we're familiar with in Western. And then when the sort of plot kicks in or when the violence kicks in, the archetypes we're so familiar with stop acting like the archetypes we know and they start acting like real people. And that was kind of the idea for the movie, was that it'd be a movie about violence and how violence affects people and how we have one expectation for what, violence is like in the movies and a different expectation of what it's like in real life. And I wanted to see what it was like to see all these Western archetypes start to act like real people when they're faced with the problems that they find themselves in this movie. And I think in that, there's a sort of honesty to it, but there's also a sense of, there's a dark sense of humor to it as well.
Speaking of the people here, Ty, you've casted many wonderful actors, including James in this film, Ethan Hawke, as the ref mentioned, John Travolta, among others. How did you decide which actor to choose for each role, and what was it like to guide them in bringing your characters to life?
Well, this was a unique experience, and where every person that's in this movie was my first choice. So I had Ethan Hawke in mind when I wrote it, and I met him, and I sort of pitched him the idea, and he liked it. And I said, okay, I'm going to go write the script, and I'm going to send it to you when I'm done. And if you like it, let's make this movie. And I sent it to him, and he flipped for it, and very quickly we were in the process of making the movie. And John Travolta was the first person I met for that role, which was a surreal and exciting experience. And he totally understood what I was going for. He understood the character. He understood the humor in the movie, and he was very enthusiastic about it, which was, for me, just an exciting experience on its own. And James Ransone and I have been friends for a long time, so I wrote the part with him in mind as well. And then the first person I met for Mary Ann was Taissa, and the first person I met for Ellen was Karen, and everyone just sort of clicked. And, off we went. I think it was the kind of movie it's very performance-driven. I mean, it's a movie that the plot is one thing, but really the takeaway from this movie is sort of the esoteric details and the little exciting flourishes in the performances and the cinema of it all. So I think it was really a movie where the actors could shine, and that was what was important to me. And so, getting this cast, I feel very fortunate, and I couldn't imagine anyone else playing these parts.
Wow, that's awesome. James, in this film, you've teamed up with Ethan Hawke again, with the last time, I believe, being the ever-helpful deputy in the film Sinister. But in this film, your character, Gilly, who is a serious troublemaker, is Ethan's antithesis. Tell us how you determined how far to go in that portrayal and what that process was like for you and Ethan the second go-around.
Well, I mean, I guess Ethan and I actually worked on another thing together. It's a small Shakespeare movie called Cymbeline, and we did that with Michael Amareda in between this. So this is the third time in a row that I was working with Ethan. So it became really, you know what I mean? Like, there was nothing sort of for us to figure out in terms of our personalities, because it was like we both knew each other. So I think that created an ease. And then the way that I try to work is that I can create as much of a character as I can, but whatever sort of the director's vision is for what they're making, and with every director, I'm always going to try to, trust the fact that they know the story so much better than I do, even as an actor, and that whatever character choices I can come up with will pale in comparison to the overall vision of whatever filmmaker I'm working with, And so you know, if the scene calls for me to be funny, then, and that might go against some, you know, preconceived notions of how I was going to play the character, then that's what I was going to have to do. And if the scene required for me to be really dark, you know, if it's like a tense scene, then that's what I was going to have to do as well. So, you know, I mean, that was sort of my position with this movie, is knowing that it was going to be idiosyncratic, you know, and I think some of that just comes from being friends with Ty for a long time and stylistically understanding what he's trying to go for. But yeah, that was sort of my approach to this movie.
Mm-hmm. So also, James, similarly, you have lots of experience in both film and TV. So how is it preparing to play a film character like Gilly? How is that different from preparing to play a TV character?
Time. You just have more time.
Yeah.
You know, you just have more time to talk about it. You have more time to... Well, it's two different things, right? So it's like if you're lucky enough to do a bunch of seasons of TV, it becomes easier to get back into the character. But then if you're going to do a movie, is that you have a little bit more time to think about it and develop it and start to ask some questions that I don't think the medium of television allows you to do.
Mm.
You're getting rewrites constantly, and you're getting new directors, and there's so much, you know, it's like, okay, well, we're doing this today, and you go, okay, well, I better make a whole new set of choices then.
Wow. James, do you prefer one over the other?
No, absolutely not. I mean, I'm probably in some ways like a lazy or disgruntled director at heart. I went to film school.
Yeah.
And not in the same way I think that other actors are. I think other actors are actors that like to direct themselves because they feel that they're not where they should be. I like working with artists. You know what I mean? Like, I like working with people that have, and maybe that's too snotty of a term, but I like working with people that have a consistent vision and their own style, you know, because I just respond to that because it feels, you know, it's like the difference between going into like a Walmart and like a mom and pop shop. You're like, oh, this feels like something. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's good. Ty, you're no stranger to the multi-layer process of directing, writing, producing, and editing your films that you did with this movie. How does managing all those different hats, especially in this film, differ from when you're solely a director for television? So kind of returning the tables a little bit to hear your perspective, Ty.
Yeah, I only started doing television about a year ago, and it's a totally different job, really. It feels a little bit more like being a consultant than it does being a filmmaker, and I don't mean that pejoratively. It's just different. It's sort of, you kind of go in, you get the script, it's very brief, as James was saying, and you quickly try to format a plan, and you try to find a way to take their show and kind of filter it through your head to best accomplish what you think their goals are. So it's a very different... It's not a sort of like 2-year personal journey of trying to make a film that you kind of like birthed from your own brain. It's much more just sort of like, how do you help navigate, you know, what they're already doing, and then hopefully add a little bit of your personality to it. And it's great. It's a blast. It's really fun. I mean, it's also really great because it only takes 5 or 6 weeks and the whole thing is done. A movie can take 2 years. I mean, we shot this movie in 2014, and so you have to have enough enthusiasm to still want to, you know, talk about the movie like we are today in 2016. And that's a different mindset and a different job. But they're both fun, and, you know, I enjoy both.
Shifting gears a bit here, we've seen that a lot of films this year have been released both in theaters and on demand on the same day. This is for both of you or whomever wants to answer. How does a movie like In a Valley of Violence specifically play differently in the theater versus at home?
Well, I would say as a filmmaker, you know, with any movie I make, I would say it's better to see it in the theater because, you know, that's how movies are meant to be seen. You know, we work very hard on what the movie looks like, what the movie sounds like. It's meant to be seen on a big screen and loud sound. But all that aside, which is sort of hopefully is obvious to everyone, is that this movie in particular is me really sort of embracing my love for cinema in a way. And this is a movie that's really great to see with an audience because for some people it's a little unexpected that there's so much sort of dark humor in it. And it's really great to be in a crowded room with a bunch of strangers, and when you think like that was kind of funny and you kind of laugh and you hear someone else do the same, there's a camaraderie to that, and there's an enthusiasm that the movie brings out of people that is really infectious and really exciting, and hopefully it reminds you why you love going to the movies, because we don't get those experiences as often anymore. And so, it's great that in the sort of modern times you have access. If it's not in your city, you can still watch it at home. And, from a technical perspective, a lot of people have pretty big TVs and some decent sound systems. So that makes me feel a little better as a filmmaker. But this movie and the content of this movie in particular, having traveled around the world with it over the last year and showing it at film festivals, it really is a movie that audiences tend to embrace.
Cool. So here on Why Watch That, we always end our interviews by asking our guests which movies and TV shows they're watching right now. So Ty and James, what are you watching?
Oh my God!
My God!
I don't actually watch a lot of TV. I know that's the most annoying answer. The last TV show that I watched from beginning to end was I watched The Night Of.
Of course.
Yes.
I really like Richard Price. The last movie I saw in the theater was Hell or High Water.
Great.
And then the stuff that I've been the last thing that I watched that still is I'm thinking about almost on a daily level is Brazil.
Wow.
I also watched Night Up and I like that. I'd say what resonated with me the most recently, I really enjoyed Louis C.K.'s series that he made for his website called Horace and Pete. I thought that was really terrific. And I recently saw, it comes out next year, but I saw this cool French cannibal movie called Raw. That was pretty great.
Well, at the end on that, that's actually and without him telling me that, I was actually going to chime in and say that was the one movie I was looking forward to seeing.
Oh.
Yeah. It's good.
Great.
See it.
Well, thanks, guys, so much for joining us on Why Watch That. Again, In a Valley of Violence is opening in the theaters October 21st and on demand. So there's really no excuse. You should go out and see it. Thanks again, Ty and Jay.
For having us. Thank you very much.